just going to have this to back it up. Okay. All right, so welcome back to Cracks in Postmodernity. Today we have GG Albuquerque, who is a journalist and an academic researcher based in Recife, Brazil. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did right.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got into writing about funky music.
Okay, I'll try to do my best. I'll do my best here for you to understand my English. Okay. I wanted to be a journalist, a music journalist, since I was a teenager. My father and my grandfather worked in a radio station, so I was very close to journalism and all of that. But they worked in police, news and stuff like that, and I was interested in culture, specifically music. And then I said to myself, well, I have to listen to all kinds of music. So I listened to, I don't know, from Miles Davis to Burzum, from jazz to black metal and classical and stuff like that. But at the time, the funk movement was growing here in Brazil and in Recife also. Recife, my city, has a different type of funk that we called brega funk, and these scenes were emerging at that time. So I was connecting to this music, and later when I became a professional journalist working at newspapers and all of that, I said, man, I have to write about these because a few people are writing about the music. There were people looking at the social aspects of it, but I was interested also in music and the artistic value of this music expression. So that was it.
Interesting. So for those who don't know, what is it that makes funk distinct? Like, what are the sonic elements in terms of the instrumentation and all that?
Okay. Well, going to the history of funk, right? There's just one thing that I want to clear here. People usually talk about funk carioca, right? So you probably heard this, but carioca is it means something that is from Rio de Janeiro, the city Rio de Janeiro. But funk here in Brazil comes from different cities and different states. So I think we should use, I don't know, baile funk maybe, or just funk. But this funk it had a lot of influence from different types of electronic dance music, from Mayan bass, especially Mayan bass, electro. There were songs, there's a lot of music that use Kraftwerk samples, a lot of music that use the beats of the 808, Mayan bass and stuff like that. But gradually, the scene became more Afro-Brazilian. They use a lot of Afro-Brazilian culture elements, like berimbau. It's a instrument, a percussion instrument, and they used this, and they were creating a different kind of electronic music that came from hip hop, rap, and all of that, but were gradually becoming more Brazilian, Mm-hmm. And now this goes to, now we have a more different types of funk, There's a particular funk being played in São Paulo for example, that is called stragaphony. How can let me see, how can I translate that? Some things that will break your headphone, you know, because it is really noisy and high pitched. It's really aggressive, and it's really different from, I don't know. I have when I listen to this stragaphony funk, I have the same feeling like when I hear the Singeli music from Tanzania. It's so radical and so groundbreaking. I don't know any music like that, you know.
What is it that makes it radical and groundbreaking?
I think, well, let me see if I can explain what I think here. First of all, the electronic music, dance music, it's based on the bass, right? Bass gives the kind of danceability, you know?
Yeah.
And this funk being played right now in São Paulo, but all in other states, you have different experimentations and innovations. But this specific type of funk, it's based on high-pitched, you know, high-pitched frequencies. And that's why that happens, because the drug that they use in the street parties called fluxus or bailes de rua, that would be something like street parties. It's called loló or lança. That it's a drug that creates hallucination with high pitches. So it's really connected to what is the dance and the drugs and the experience of that specific party, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a connection, a really intelligent connection that the producers create with the sound and the dance and the bodies on the parties.
Okay, so it sounds like it's trying to create this almost out of body ecstatic experience. But so then, like, why do you think they came up with this, or like what gave birth to such a kind of sound or an experience in the first place?
Okay, that's hard to tell, but I think, first of all, the guys that create this music they were not trained in music, formal music, right? They learn music through FL Studio and different softwares, different DAWs, right? And they have a different approach to music. They don't care. They don't talk about melodies and harmonies or even rhythms. They talk about the sensation that the music provokes, and they talk about they talk about a lot about the bass and the high pitches. They are really they have a really frequential approach to music. You know what can you understand what I'm saying? It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And also connected to that party experience, because it's not that they create the music and the people dance to it. The dance comes first, you know. Mm-hmm. This is really interesting. And they mentioned that when I create the music, I'm always thinking about the dance that the people will make it, you know?
Yeah, and I'm really interested in the way that I guess the production, the composition of the music shapes the social or the cultural experience, because I am removed from this cultural context for the most part. But when I hear this music, there's something about that percussion pattern that does speak to me. that kind of deeper level. Like it brings out this, again, this desire for something out of body, something that's like brings you out of where you are in the moment to something higher even.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, like there's something to be said about, what gave rise to this kind of sound. So that's why I'm curious to just understand more about the cultural impact. I know like you're more focused on I guess the instrumental and the musical part, but what can you say about the cultural significance of funk?
Mm-hmm. I think funk gives meaning to favelas, favelas or slums, because like samba did it in the past, it still does, but funk's more popular right now.
Yeah.
There's a song called Baile de Favela. You probably heard. It's huge, right? And in the lyrics says a lot of places, a lot of favelas, and where parties, bailes are happening. So he's talking about these places with pride, and not. It goes beyond the favela that we see in the news, that are violent places with drug dealers and crimes and poverty. I think funk gives meaning and a culture to these places, these that we see in the news in a bad way, in a bad sense. They are the frame that they show us in the TV and the news in a negative sense. We see that in another aspects in funk,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's making me think of they had that Netflix series Sintonia. Did you see that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know how accurate that is of a depiction of the life and
Mm-hmm.
the love, but it was interesting to me that, there are these three main characters.
Yeah.
One to be, a funk MC, the other is dealing drugs, the other,
Exactly.
religious kind of journey. And it's interesting because I think the kid, I think it's MC Doni, so like he kind of embodies what both of his friends are doing, because the one, he's selling drugs because he wants to make money, because survive.
Yeah.
And the girl, like, she becomes very involved in the church because she's looking for like spiritual experience, find hope in the midst of a difficult life. And I think for Doni, it's like becoming an MC, he's going to make money, which he doesn't have, but also it gives him meaning. It gives him hope in his life. So it's just something about the style of the music itself, that it is very uplifting, and again, like makes you kind of expect something greater in life, but also it says something about the cultural context, that it's coming from a place where there's this deep desire for meaning, for a better life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also give them a name and a personality, because when you're in the favelas, or you're a black person, a poor black person in Brazil, you're no one, right? The state doesn't give you protection or health. You don't have nothing. You're living on your own. So you seek funk, or you seek you try football, soccer, to be someone, to have a name and be noticed by people, right? It's something that makes you, give you a stage, right? People are looking at you, and you have importance to other people. And you mentioned the Sintonia. Yes, I think Sintonia, it's it's a Netflix series, right? But it makes sense. It makes sense because church is also important, and really, really important in favelas here. A church is a shelter. They have a social and political impact that is huge.
And but it also sheds light on the fact that the music itself also provides some kind of spiritual consolation, or again, the
Yeah,
sense of life, you know. Um,
yeah,
so with that being said, I'm curious to know more about the popularization of the music, because I told you this, like I first discovered it when, you know, on YouTube, I was watching a J Balvin video and
yeah.
the Ramsey Fiochi came up with Boom Boom Tam Tam. So, I listened to it and I was like, okay, it's interesting because, I already know J Balvin on the remix, but the sound was very new to me. And
Yeah.
then you see Anita being featured on more of these reggaeton songs. So then it was more on my radar. And then I saw, more and more people who aren't Brazilian discovering this music. So I don't know, what can you say about how it became more and more?
Hmm. Yeah. First of all, I think it's important to say that we had like two different uh, setups in funk. You have this mainstream funk that tries to be international and pop, and you have this like the funk that plays in favelas, in the street parties, like I was mentioning. The sound of it, it's really different. The sound of the favela funk is really aggressive, noisy, and this is something, right? They don't, these producers, the noise is not a strange element. People would say, why make a dance music so loud and aggressive They don't care. They don't see that as a problem. And this more pop focus funk that connects to reggaeton and other types of urban or Latin music, whatever you name it. They want to be in that position, right? So the major representant of this I don't know, uh, this kind of funk is Conzilla. You probably heard of. He has his YouTube channel. He produces music videos. He also produced Sintonia that you mentioned, and it's also a kind of a record label, but not exactly, and connected to marketing and advertising. And his artists, Kevinho, MCJP, that is Donnie in Sintonia, MC Kekel, want to be more pop music. So you see that the video clips of Conzilla from 2017 and on, they don't have guns in the videos. They want to put less women on bikinis because they say that is bad for connecting with brands. They don't have I don't know how you guys talk palavrões, like dirty words. The music, the lyrics are not explicit.
Yeah, it's in versions. Yeah.
Yeah, clean versions, and which is a kind of censorship, right? And because they want to be in a public, they want get to more people. They want to be. They want to go beyond the lower classes. The artists are very white. A lot of them are white. So this is part of a project of popularization, mainstreaming of funk, and they connect with a lot of other genres in the world. The Conzilla talks about that. He says we want to be urban music movement. We want to connect with kuduro. We want to connect with reggaeton, and so that remix that you heard about with J Balvin, sorry, MC Fiote and J Balvin, it's part of that project, you know. But it's interesting because the video of the remix, you don't see nothing that characterizes Brazil. Nothing's it's like a music without a local, you know. You don't have a face there. Fiote is not there. The dance are not funk moves, right? And the main character of the video is a white guy that beats a lot of black person with his dancing skills. So there's a movement that cleans the local marks and the black culture marks in this mainstreaming process.
Yeah, and it's interesting because on one hand, like I wouldn't know much about funk if I didn't start seeing that video. But on the other hand, it compromises the origins. Like if you want to really appreciate the music, then you're gonna have to, like somebody who's not from Brazil is gonna have to go do the research, is gonna have to go find out. Yeah. And it's, I don't know, I see, because I'm a little more focused on reggaeton, like you see how reggaeton is facing the same dilemma now, that it's becoming this global pop, this global urban sensation that's mixing with all these other genres, which I think it's nice that the dembow rhythm pattern is being spread around the world, because it's a good one, you know, people should hear it, but at what cost? You know, if it's
exactly
that it's not only is it becoming like it's being very mixed with these other genres to the point that you lose sight of the origins, you know, and it's part of it is racially driven, that the origin, like this is afrodiasporic music, you know, they want to play it as it's like they say it's this, they use the term Latin ambiguously, but really like it started in Jamaica, it started with Panama, and all the first artists were black, you know. So it's funny then when you see people like Balvin, Anita, Maluma, people coming together, and it's like, oh, it's Latin music, but what does that mean if we're going to use the term Latin so ambiguously? Like, yes, they're together, but there are particularities, there are differences, you know.
Yeah, and also it's strange when, for Brazilian people, when you talk about Latin music, because in Brazil we don't listen to Latin music, you know. Brazil just listen to Brazilian music and American pop songs, pop hits. It's great. I mean, J Balvin, people know him here because of Anita. Otherwise, they would never know. So the connections, the cultural connections with Brazil and other countries are not so strong, or not so, because Brazil, it's a different language, right? We talk Portuguese and people talk Spanish. So, but it has influences, but it's another thing, you know. Yeah, but I was, please. I was thinking about other things.
I was just gonna say, like, because like Anita collaborates with these reggaeton artists, like becoming more popular to listen to, you know, reggaeton or other Spanish music in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even Anita, you know, she started singing funk, but now she's not exactly funk, you know. She's more like a pop diva, and sometimes she connects with funk to like get a street credit, you know, maintain her reputation, but she's not a funk singer, you know. Not she started singing as MC Anitta. MC here in Brazil, if you have an MC in your name, you are a funk singer. And then now she is just Anitta. And this happened with other pop funk artists like Kevinho, that was called MC Kevinho, Kekel. These are the two biggest artists from Condzilla. So it's not a coincidence, you know. This funk gets diluted. I don't know if, I'm sorry, I'm using a Portuguese word here. I don't know the English translation, but gets lost in pop approach. You know, the funk beats kind of gets lost.
Yeah. No, so I want to move on to, you wrote a really interesting essay that I think it covers more than just funk. Like, I know you talk about the origins of samba, but focusing on, again, the fact that these are forms of afrodiasporic music. And it comes with a lot of cultural, social baggage. And what interested me most is because, you know, we focus a lot on the kind of philosophical implications of pop culture on the podcast. And you were saying something about, I guess, this Western sense of like Descartes separating the mind from the body. And you call it like this incorporated philosophy where the music really together the mind, the soul, and the body that challenges, I guess, kind of Western Enlightenment narrative. It's like when I read that, that really resonated with me because I don't know, like even though I grew up in a very Western kind of bourgeois secular environment where, you know, we ascribe to, even subconsciously, like we ascribe to a lot of Descartes' ideas about the dualism, the separation. I was always drawn to forms of music that didn't really recognize that distinction, that understood the mind and the body were very much united. And that when you listen to music, it kind of speaks to this reality, to this fact. And again, it's like my cultural context is very different from the one where funk was born. And yet I recognize something to be true on that deeper human level. So I'm interested to hear more about what you're saying about the mind-body separation and the Western kind of construct. I don't know, the way we look at our humanity, I guess.
Yeah. I think I'm interested in something like a sonic logos, to use Julian Henrique's words, because, yeah, like you mentioned, you have this separation of mind and body, and I think this afrodiasporical music is using the body as the main point where everything begins here. The dance comes first, as I was saying. So you experiment with your body and not despite your body, you know? There's the history of 150 BPM funk. It's a kind of funk that emerged around 2017. What's the story? Funk is made usually in 130 BPM, right? But in the parties, people were speeding up, pitching the songs to become more faster and energetic, and they saw that create a joy in the people, the crowd, but the music was not good because sounds artificial, right? So the one producer called DJ Polivox from Rio de Janeiro thought, I have to create a beat because you don't have, I need to create a music that's, the music that we have now, it's not enough to provide the energy to that party, to that dance. So he created the tambor Coca-Cola, a beat made with the sound, the noise of Coca-Cola, a Coke bottle, yeah, hitting on a door. It's really amazing. I have a video that he explains how he created. I'll send you. And it's amazing because the sound of a bottle hitting on a door, it's not a musical sound, right? It's not on our harmony. I don't know how to say that. These technical terms in English. I'm sorry, but it's not considered a musical sound according to the Western view, right? But he gets this sound and creates that beat that will be really important to create a new type of funk that will renew the sound of funk carioca. Right now, it's the right term, the funk from Rio de Janeiro, and that becomes really popular. Anitta will use funk 150 BPM. So I think this is one example of incarnated philosophy or sonic logos, because you were thinking through sound, right? I don't know if I hope I make sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, and it's interesting to me because first of all, when I read that, it was just exciting because this is the way that I usually think about music. Like, I think the social implications, they're interesting.
Sure.
That musical components.
I think the social and the artistic are not so separated, right?
Yeah,
it's just about focus.
And that's why it was interesting, though, that I don't find many people who have from this, I guess, this existential or philosophical level that brings together the different, and especially I'm very interested in the concept of the logos because I don't know, it's like something that I've studied a lot. When you start with Plato and you see that, at least for Plato, for the ancients, that it's projecting this sense of some ideal that transcends us, and yet at least for the ancient Greeks, like it's very much removed from our humanity, from the body especially. And I think you see at least in Western Christianity, like they appropriate this concept of the logos and try to say, well, okay, the logos becomes flesh. The logos has a body now through, Jesus coming. But I think, through the Enlightenment, that sense of the transcendent, the spiritual being united to the body is lost because of people like Descartes. And then I guess that translates into the musical, the aesthetic sensibility. But this is precisely why I think this music is fascinating, because it's bringing back that sense that some higher truth and our human bodies are very much in touch with each other. They're not two separated entities. So it's just a lot about, I think, how much the diaspora, its legacy is kind of stifled, and yet it remains alive. It still speaks to people as much as history has tried to repress it.
Can you repeat this last part? I think I didn't get what you...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that forms of music, forms of art that come from the African diaspora, I think, at least in the West, it's been pushed away or it's been silenced. But the fact that it says something very true about what it means to be human, about, who we are, and the fact that it's still alive today, even though, yes, like it is repressed, it is silenced, it says something very powerful about the music, the art,
Sure. I agree with you. I don't know what to say, but that's it. I think this I'll tell you a story. one day me and a friend, we were in Rio de Janeiro for a festival, experimental music festival and stuff like that. And there were journalists. I don't remember where they were from, which country, but they were from Europe, and white people from Europe. And they were talking with my friend that is a professor at a university, but also has a really great label here in Brazil called KTV, three letters, and knows a lot about samba and stuff like that. And they recorded a show with him. So they asked him, "Oh, bring some music and stuff like that," and he gave them a lot of music. So when he went to record the show, the guys, he asked, "Oh, did you listen to the songs and stuff like that?" "No, we didn't listen, but we read it. We read a lot about it." So, well, that makes no sense. You have to listen to the music, right? Because the music, because people, it's not possible to know the stuff without your senses, right? Without the experience, the I mean the sensitive, I don't know how to say that in English. Sorry, sensible experiences. The experiencing with your senses.
Yeah.
You have to experience it with your senses to produce some knowledge, produce a kind of knowledge. You can't put music aside and just read about it. No, because music has a special thing on its own, right? That's the idea of sonic logos, really, really generally speaking, right? It's not my concept, but that's thinking that sound itself, it's one kind of logo, a kind of thinking.
No, and that's why it's so important that it's again, it says something very true about who we are as humans, that we're not just that we have our mind and then our body is
exactly. Sure.
Tool says something about what's true on a higher level, like on a rational level. Yeah.
And this, you talked about the Enlightenment. This was a political project, right? Because when you separated mind and body, which people don't have mind are the black people, right? The black and the native people. So they can be slaves for us because they don't even have a mind. They're not human after all. So this is it's not just, I'm not the only one saying that. A lot of black scholars talk that the body becomes a medium of expression for black cultures. Gilroy talked about that. Paul Gilroy talks about that. Stuart Hall talks about that, and many others. Yeah, so the body will have a significant role in afrodiasporic cultural movements.
Yeah, and it shows you that when you're ascribing to ideas that are false or that, I don't know, aren't based on reality, it has consequences. There are repercussions, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
sure.
What I would want to ask you now, just to close up, what impact has funk had on your life personally? Like, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's hard to describe because music is so mysterious, right? But I think funk made me understand Brazil, made me understand myself, my race, my place in society. Made me understand all of that I was talking with you. And also it's a source of joy and joy is really important. Um, it's not just happiness, you know, it's more deep than that. And also created a structure of friends and people and knowledge that I acquired talking with a lot of different MCs and producers that I wouldn't have if it wasn't for funk. So that's it. There's a verse from a sambista, samba player from Brazil called Bezerra da Silva that he says, se não fosse o samba, quem sabe hoje em dia eu seria do bicho. Like if it wasn't samba, I would be a outlaw or a people that has nothing. So I think it's like that. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, no. And so for people who are not familiar with funk yet, where do you think they should start? Like which artists or which, I don't know, where can they learn more?
I think the contemporary artists, I really like, I'll try to say 5, right? From different cities. MC Drika, it's, let me write for you. MC Drika, MC Ricky, Shevchenko e Euloko. This is 2 singers, they sing together. Shevchenko e Euloko, DJ K, that's a producer. And let me see one more. DJ James.
Awesome. So
if you listen to these artists on YouTube and SoundCloud, the algorithms will take you to really cool places.
And they'll lead the rest of the way. Good. So speaking of YouTube, you have like a mini documentary on there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have a documentary about Brega Funk that is different specific type of funk made here in Recife. Shevchenko and Euloko are from this movement, so maybe you notice the differences.
Yeah. Okay. So that's on YouTube. That's from Spotify Brazil, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then what do you have any social media that you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram as O Volume Morto. It's my I post a lot because it's my on Instagram, especially because it's the social media of my website, my blog. So everything that I write at some point goes there. I'll put here too.
Okay, cool. So I'll put in the bio. Awesome. Well, GG, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
I hope that people can understand what I was saying. I'm sorry for the grammar errors. I'm learning.
It was good.
I'm learning. I'm having classes.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay. Thank you.